Three mad scientists are creating a new being for our college project, and we are trying to make a spooky experiment. We are going to electrocute the person and perform many experiments on Frankenstein in order to go above and beyond the requirements in hopes of winning the Nobel Peace Prize. First, we are going to create the brain.
We're going to start building the clone with the brainstem. This is the oldest part of the brain, located where the spinal cord swells, and is responsible for automatic survival functions. We will then add the medulla, which allows his heart and lungs to work. This is because the medulla is responsible for the breathing and the heartbeat. Next, we are adding the pons. This is located at the top of the brainstem and controls relaxation and sleep. We are doing this so that he can actually get to sleep and function as a normal human.
Next is the amygdala, which is a lima bean-sized neural clusters linked to emotions, especially fear. This is added so that Frankenstein has normal human emotions and doesn't act like a robot.
Next, we are adding the thalamus, which is the brain secretary or control center that directs messages to the cerebral cortex and transmits replies to the cerebellum and medulla. We are adding this so that he can interpret senses and interact with his environment. Next, we're adding the reticular formation. This is a nerve network that travels through the brainstem in the thalamus to the cerebral cortex and plays an important role in controlling arousal.
We are going to create the cerebellum, which controls balance, coordinates movement output, processes sensory input, and enables nonverbal learning and memory, which is also known as the little brain. This will make sure when he wakes up, he doesn't just fall over and can actually stand up on his own.
Lastly, we're adding the cerebral cortex. This is the intricate fabric or interconnected neural cells covering the cerebral hemispheres and is the body's ultimate control and information processing center. We are adding this to finish the complete brain structure.
Next, we created the lobes, which are the four regions of the cerebral cortex. First, the frontal lobe, which is involved in speaking, muscle movements, plans, judgments, and possibly personality. Next, the parietal lobe, which is the top rear of the brain, receives sensory input for touch and body position. Next, the occipital lobe, rear of the brain, receives visual information which helps Frankenstein see. Then, the temporal lobe, roughly above the ears, and it processes auditory information primarily from the opposite ear. This relates to how the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body.
Here we are going to perform an fMRI. This is to make sure that his blood is flowing correctly and his brain activity is working correctly along with his brain structure.
We are going to electrocute the neurons, which are a nerve cell that consists of a cell body, axon, dendrites, and myelin sheath in order to wake him up.
Now we are going to shock him, and the threshold, or the level of stimulation required to trigger a neural impulse response, consists of 500 volts. Now we are going to experience a refractory period, which is a brief resting pause after a neuron has been fired. We observed the all or none response, which is when a neuron either fires or does not fire. The first time, he didn't wake up, so that meant that the neuron didn't fire. The second time when he was shocked, he does wake up. After Frankenstein wakes up, we are going to test his reflexes, which are simple automatic responses to sensory stimuli. We are going to tap both knees and see if he responds.
A neurotransmitter is a chemical messenger that crosses the synaptic gap between neurons. Some of these control one's mood. Dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, and endorphins are examples of these. These neurotransmitters begin to flow in the mad scientist as a result of them becoming excited that the Frankenstein is working. Too much of the glutamate flows out, leading to the mad scientist to experience a seizure.
To conclude, the three scientists submitted their project and won the Nobel Peace Prize.